Hello, and thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate you joining us, especially in light of what's going on across the world. Before diving into our session for today, I really wanted to just quickly flash this disclaimer slide. And with that, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Pooja Mehta, and I'm an enterprise product manager here at Slack. I focus on our identity and security product areas. And while I'm disappointed I can't be there in front of you all on stage, I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to be here virtually and share what we're seeing in terms of the state of work today, provide an overview of how modern set of tools are helping organizations unlock new opportunities, and then invite our friend from Anaplan, Connor, who's going to be sharing how they're leveraging Slack and Okta to streamline onboarding and set new employees up for success as soon as they join the organization. As many of you may be aware, modern work requires us to coordinate with a diverse set of people as well as evolving sets of applications and data, and especially given our current circumstances, an increasingly distributed workforce. There are many networks of people all relying on different applications and data residing in many different places. More and more, teams are being asked to collaborate across departments and regions. A couple examples could include creating a local marketing campaign that supports a global brand, or solving urgent issues that were surfaced as a result of surprising user behavioral data, or even solving long-term open-ended problems like what should we do with artificial intelligence. And all of that results in increased pressure to evolve. And this pressure can come from various different sources, including competition, customers, and even internal sources of pressure like employees. And really that transpires in a few different ways. The desire to move faster than ever before, an raised bar of customer expectations, and the desire to make decisions that have been more complex than ever before at a pace that is faster than ever before. And that's really where Slack comes in. Slack helps your teams work with the people, the applications, and data that they're already working with today in order to get their jobs done faster and quicker than ever before. And we're proud to work with the most innovative companies out there, companies of various different sizes across various different industries. Now, this slide doesn't just feature some companies that are dabbling in their usage of Slack, but these are organizations that have deployed Slack widely across their companies. Overwhelmingly, we're hearing how much Slack has been welcomed by their teams, how it's saving their teams time and making it simpler and faster for them to get their work done. And before going any further, I want to just take a step back. For those that may not be familiar, this is what the Slack interface looks like. You'll see something called channels highlighted here. Work in Slack happens in channels. Anyone can kick off a channel and bring together all of the teams that are working on a specific purpose together. A channel is a single place to communicate, share documents, updates, raise awareness, and make decisions so that everyone is always on the same page. The knowledge related to a project always remains in the channel, even as people leave and join, making it easier to facilitate handoffs between tools or onboard new members of a team. There's no need to forward emails or hunt for important documents. Everything an employee needs is right in one place in chronological order and completely searchable. And the good news is that your favorite software already works with Slack. Slack connects with your tools, deepening the value you get from them by making them easier to use, including when your teams work remotely or from any device. We have over 2,000 applications in our directory and over 700,000 active developers who are building new applications for Slack. We integrate with industry leaders that support every team and every department across your organization. Slack, as you may know, was built and rapidly adopted by nimble technical teams. Now, we are one of the only platforms that can comfortably scale to 500,000 end users. Over the past 4 years, we have heavily invested our resource into making Slack a powerful enterprise-grade tool with battle-tested security and compliance features that we built in collaboration with some of the most stringent customers possible from highly regulated industries like financial services. And to further emphasize that point, Slack meets and exceeds some of our most broadly recognized security standards and offers solutions to help you address your compliance requirements. Our security program certifies its services with many of the different badges that you see here on the screen. Slack also helps you meet industry regulations and international security data privacy standards, including FINRA, HIPAA, FedRAMP, data residency, and GDPR. In addition to those compliance standards, we offer a wide breadth of security features that are agile and configurable based on the unique needs of your organization. The first category of those features are identity and device protection features. These are features that allow you to ensure that the right individuals have the right access to Slack on an ongoing basis, and then they're accessing Slack from devices that you deem to be the most secure for your organization. In addition to that, by default, Slack encrypts data at rest and data in transit as part of our foundational security program. However, we also provide additional tools to give you even further visibility and control as to how your organization is using Slack and ensuring that it is in a compliant manner. And also, every company needs an ongoing strategy to reduce the risk of compromised data, and there's no one-size-fits-all approach. Therefore, Slack offers governance and risk management capabilities that are flexible enough to meet your organization's needs, no matter what they are. And with that, I want to welcome Connor from Anaplan to talk a little bit about how they are leveraging Okta and Slack to streamline employee onboarding at Anaplan. Before I pass it off to Connor, I want to quickly highlight what our integration between Okta and Slack does at a high level. Really, this integration is focused on lifecycle management, ensuring that Okta is the source of truth in terms of active employees and ensuring that as a result of the integration, employees are getting access to the right information and right tools in Slack, regardless of where they're at in their journey within the organization. So that may be whether they're a new employee joining for the first time, an employee that may be changing roles, or even an employee that is departing. We want to make sure that they are securely accessing Slack and have access to the right information at the right time. And with that, I'll pass it off to Connor.
All right. Thank you, Pooja. So my name is Connor O'Brien, and I run the business operations group here at Anaplan. And what I'm going to walk you through is our own journey through how we actually found and procured Okta, and then leveraged it along with Anaplan and Slack to create a seamless onboarding process for our new hires and new employees. So when we founded the business operations team about 2-3 years ago, we had a primary kind of focus on one, as you can see there in the middle, rolling out connected planning. It's what Anaplan does. We bring together people, data, and plans to make informed decisions. And so that is our team's fundamental job, is how do we kind of identify those core business processes, align the people, the process, the data, and the plans into a cohesive outcome and drive the business forward. So one of the things that we wanted to walk you through was a pretty classic story for a lot of companies like ourselves. This actually starts going back maybe 2 years and is continuously being iterated on today. But we were a classic hypergrowth company, and as anybody who's gone through that kind of hypergrowth, you probably are familiar with these 3 bullet points here. Year-over-year doubling of headcount, doing so at the expense and the underinvestment in your IT and your operations teams, and the just kind of proliferation of applications across the company, right? And all of these things have an impact on your company, whether it's the top line and your ability to generate revenue, a ballooning bottom line in terms of your expenses. They're problematic and they have to get brought under control. And so when we started to look at a number of different pain points that we as a company were experiencing, we kind of decided to focus on 2 bigger bucket items. One, overall rep capacity and performance and productivity. So we knew the vast majority of our hiring was going to be coming through the sales department and the associated people that support those groups, like the pre-sales team, deal desk, legal, et cetera. And that we needed to get them as onboarded as fast as humanly possible, as productive as fast as possible. And that's the only way that we'd really have success as a company to hit our, audacious targets. So when we started looking into it and doing some research, we actually found, and this isn't our own data, this is just stuff we found, out on the internet and, by talking with different groups like Serious Decisions and, Forrester, et cetera, is that it actually takes most people, and this is just not directly sales reps, this is any kind of employee, about 8 months to hit max productivity, right? So that's when you really start to really understand the job, the people, the politics, the industry, if it's brand new, all that stuff. However, during that time, 33% of your employees actually begin to look for different work at about the 6-month mark, right? So it takes 8 months to get up to full productivity. And before they even hit that full productivity kind of threshold, about a third of your total employee base is actually looking for a way out about 6 months into the job. The net result being that only 25% of your employees that you hire in a cohort actually hit that 8-month milestone, right? So just to kind of put this into simple numbers, if you have 10 people that start in one day, 2.5 of those people, let's do 12. 3 of those people are going to actually make it to the 8th month milestone, right? That's an incredibly expensive proposition, right? So we try to figure out, well, what can we do to try and bend that curve? What can we try and do to ensure that we get more people past that kind of 8-month hump? And also we have less people looking to leave earlier, or maybe we can even shorten that max productivity number from 8 to maybe even 7 months, right? Incremental wins across those 3 different kind of, we'll call them columns of data, would in theory then have a massive impact on, one, our ability to drive revenue, as well as our ability to control our costs. And so when we started to really dig into the problem around onboarding, because that really is one of the biggest kind of indicators of a person's or an employee's happiness, and then as a result, their tenure, and then of course their productivity, ours was a mess. And we had some data behind there. I'm not going to go too far into it, but we had some turnover issues. I'll leave it at that. And we knew that part of it was that people felt that they were just not set up for success. So that led us to really zero in on how can we make sure that people are set up for success from day one, right? And so that really kind of made us look at the employee onboarding process. And what we found was, I would say, not that atypical of a lot of companies that are growing as fast as Anaplan was a couple of years ago. But also we weren't good either, right? So we had to have a bit of an honest conversation with ourselves about how poorly we were servicing our employees and how we could fix it. And the specific things that we found was that, one, everything was decentralized and lacked any kind of process. You could go talk with leaders in the pre-sales organization, the IT organization, the sales organization, the finance organization. Everybody onboarded and engaged new employees in an entirely different way. And that's everything from what do they do their first day, to did they sign all their HR paperwork, to did they give access to the appropriate applications they need to do their job. It was just all over the place, right? And so there was just no kind of standardization. There was no accountability. On top of that, at the time, we were growing not just numerically, we were growing geographically. We were scaling upwards to 12 global offices, as well as 40 plus different remote locations, which is effectively like WeWorks, shared working places, and also individual people out in an island somewhere working from their home office. So it wasn't just that we had people, a lot of people coming in, is that they were coming in at all different time zones, different locations with different levels of infrastructure and support available to them. And so while somebody who was in our headquarters office in San Francisco could literally walk down the hall and tap our Salesforce.com administrator on the shoulder and say, hey, can you give me my access? Somebody who was based out of, let's say, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, could not do that, right? And so there was just a lot of scale issues that were going on there, which I'm sure is very acute for a lot of people right now, given just the current climate with COVID-19. Finally, the last thing we recognized being a problem and was arguably the biggest issue was, even if we did get people access to the appropriate platforms, they didn't know what to do once they were there. All right, there was just too much information. It was like drinking from a fire hose. And to kind of give you a bit of a sense for the scope of the problem, I went and found this 90-day plan that we actually use for our pre-sales team. And they have, as you can see here, some of the basic onboarding things like, hey, set up a meeting with your direct manager for a weekly one-on-one, write up a bio so they can share it and announce it to the company that you're working here and what you do. And then you start getting into the specifics of you need to get set up with Okta. Right? You need to get access to Salesforce, WebEx, Community, Slack, Microsoft Office, you name it. On average, we found each new employee need at least 8 different applications in order to actually do their job, right? So if you're hiring 20, 30 people a month, and each person needs 8+ applications provisioned for them, not to mention the actual content within it, and it takes, let's just say, 30 minutes per application, that adds up very, very quickly, right? And it becomes a major albatross around the neck of the IT team or the individuals supporting that application or that system to administer and provision and deprovision, for that record, all the different people who need access or removal or changing of access, right? So people are spending more time on technical administration and less time with their customers, with their prospects, right? Solving issues, making people happy, and bringing people on board, right? Those are all things that we, as a field sales group, are trying to do. To further kind of double down on it is, once again, you have access to those systems, what's inside those systems? Navigating that morass of information is frankly difficult with a lot of applications like Slack and like Box. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm here talking about Slack and Okta and Anaplan. We love it, but it's intimidating the first time you open it up. There is just, pages and pages and pages of channels with names that you don't understand and acronyms that don't mean anything to you, right? And as a new employee, you're just looking at this going, what the heck do I do, right? And so we realized that was part of the issue too. And like, this is one of my favorite things ever, but in like Box, there's always people who aren't the most technically savvy, and that's fine. We all have strengths and weaknesses in this world, but you open up Box for the first time and it's no different than Slack, right? You've got somebody's like family vacation photos because they publicly shared it on accident. You've got random projects that aren't even like operationalized anymore. And so what are you supposed to do with that? You waste time kind of navigating through all this content. You learn about things that don't even matter anymore because it was decommissioned a year prior, but somebody forgot to delete it. Those are issues that can be fixed, and we did fix through Okta. And I'm hoping that through the rest of the presentation, I can walk you through some of the solutions that we did that helped kind of minimize these problems and enhance our onboarding process to enable our employees to onboard faster, contribute revenue, reduce our costs, and overall make us more productive as a company. So how we did it. The 3 pillars of planning automation is kind of what we refer to them as. Obviously, we're Anaplan, so everything kind of runs through Anaplan. But the way that we think about it is Okta is the moat, right? This is a classic analogy for what Okta does. It's the protection around your company, right? It makes sure that only those who should be inside the moat, inside the castle walls, should be there. And that once they're inside, they can only go into these certain offices and buildings. That is what Okta does best, right? And it does it seamlessly, and it does it really effectively in one of the most automated fashions that we're able to find. And it's awesome about that. What Anaplan does is it's the infrastructure, right? To continue this analogy of a city, it's the infrastructure around your roads, your plumbing, your electrical grid, Wi-Fi. Anaplan is kind of the highway through which information and data is transferred and moved from one part of the business to the other. And so it ensures that people get what they need when they need it, and they can make important decisions. And then finally, Slack is a big part of this, in that it takes those 2 things and it brings it all together, right? It's the grand bazaar. This is where people come together to talk and communicate and discuss and debate and come up with new ideas, share content, share slides, make new insights happen, and then go off and actually do something with it. And so by bringing the 3 of them together, it's the classic, the sum of their parts is greater than the whole, right? Each one does something very, very well, but it's by bringing them all together that you're able to do something kind of exceptional. Well, at least we believe, right? And to kind of give you a perspective of what that looks like in Anaplan is, this is the kind of gratuitous self-promotion thing here, so bear with me. But this is what everything Anaplan's capable of doing. We can do planning, budgeting, forecasting, decision-making across all lines of business, finance, accounting, HR, sales, marketing, engineering, product, you name it. And Out of all of that, we have one specific use case that we did for employee onboarding. So this is the model that we developed within Anaplan that is given access through Okta, the information from the recruiting team, the sales team, the finance team that's needed to find, identify, hire, and then onboard our employees is all managed through our Anaplan ecosystem. And then we use Slack as a way for people to then actually find that information, use that information, and go and do their job. So what did we actually do? Step one is actually the simplest and is frankly the most embarrassing. We just had to buy Okta to fix the big issues. Now, I'm not saying we bought Okta 2 years ago. We actually bought it before that, and we were using it for a while and we were rolling it out. But frankly, buying Okta was one of the best things we ever did as a company from the technical IT perspective. It's centralized ownership. It allowed us to create processes around how we onboarded people from a systems perspective. It created accountability and ownership around who was supposed to actually do it. And then it allowed us to actually globally administrate, right? So we could do things faster, do things more accurately, and do things at massive scale just by purchasing Okta. Now, we did our diligence. We did the classic RFP thing. We picked Okta, obviously. We're speaking to Octane here. We think it is the best in class because of that, and that's why we went with Okta. Just buying something like Okta is a win in and of itself because of what it forces from a process and a governance perspective. And what it's capable of enabling is a big part of that, right? When you can actually leverage the platform, its features and its functions, and you spend more time solving for the process and less time solving for how to work around the various technical limitations that any piece of software has, the better outcomes you're going to have with that platform, the happier you're going to be with it. We have nothing but great things to say about Okta in that regard. The next thing we did is we started leveraging the Okta groups that Pooja spoke to briefly before my section here. Is we leveraged the Okta groups to automate, Okta groups and rules to automate application provisioning. Right. So I kind of brought these numbers up where you've got 20 employees, 8 applications on average, about 15 minutes to provision, yields to about 40 hours per month or a full working day, right? Every week gone due to people just spending time administrating these applications just to turn them on for people, right? And those are fairly low level estimates. They're pretty conservative from my estimation. So that number is only going to get bigger. Not to mention there's a compounding problem as you continue to grow. 1 month, you may be hiring 20. The next month, you're hiring 22. And the next month after that, it's 24, right? Those things keep building off of each other. And if you don't have a way to get ahead of it and do it as fast as automated way as possible, you will get behind the 8 ball and you will start to break down and you will get burnt out and you will lose your team and you'll lose application support and all kinds of awful things will happen. And so it's very, very important that you get ahead of this by leveraging these Okta groups with the automated rules to say the moment somebody in, let's say, engineering starts, which is what you're actually seeing down here, they're responsible for a set of security classes they have to take as part of their just general onboarding. The moment somebody becomes a full-time employee with their start date, their Okta group that's been tagged by the process that we have to hire people, where we find out where they're located based on their office location, what their job is based on their role, what group they're a part of based also on their role. So are they an engineer on the front end, on the front end of the product and based in, London, England, then great. That sets up a particular set of trainings and applications they need in order to do their job. That's all automated based on that process. So just by the recruiters, the hiring managers, and the finance team doing their job to find, recruit, and then hire employees, they automatically fill that information that's passed through Okta via Workday as our HRIS system, and then put into run through the rules calculation engine, which then links in with the rest of our systems to say, this is what they need. And so the net result of that is when our new employees step foot in the door the first day at Anaplan, they have access to everything they need, right? If you're in sales, you've got Salesforce, obviously you've got your Anaplan models, you've got Workday for expense management, right? You've got HubSpot for your sales content management, whatever it is, that's all available to you, right? So you're never sitting there in your training class or, where people are talking about what you should do and how you should do it. You can actually go and do it while our trainers train you, right? And that's been a huge boon for our productivity because people aren't spending time kind of learning the theoretical because they're actually doing it in real life. And that's a big, big, big win that we found as a result of our onboarding process. All right, so purchasing Okta helped us solve for the first two issues here, right? It allows us to centralize ownership and accountability, build processes around the ownership of Okta and the various applications it gave access and provisioning to. And it also helped us do it at scale, right? We didn't have to overhire technical resources or bring in contractors, anything like that. We were just able to grow up and support the growth of our company as we grew up around the world. However, the last part there that was still a major hurdle was, great, we gave you access to the applications, but then what is it that you did with it once you actually were in Slack and Box, et cetera, et cetera? And this is where we go back to, again, the capability of these Okta groups. So if you recall the story around how we take a candidate from a requisition all the way to hire, there's different people along the way who, as a part of their job, they're tagging things like the office location, their job family, their job group. Are they an engineer? Are they a sales rep, et cetera, et cetera? That information gets tagged to that person, managed via our HRIS system, and then also passed in through to Okta. As a result, that then predefines their Okta group so that when they get access to things like Slack, like Box, and what we're showing here on the screen, as an example, if I'm like a sales manager or a sales rep based in San Francisco, I see everything that's associated to the West, right? West RVPs, West SDRs, West region, et cetera. We also have a very line of business focused sales motion. So are we talking about someone being more involved with finance, supply chain, marketing, or sales? And in addition, do we also bisect by an industry? Does this rep have a particular focus on the telecom industry or financial services? Whatever that is, that information is captured as a result of people doing their job and filling out information along the way that then just gets automatically passed through to their Workday profile, which then maps it up to an Okta group, which then automatically provisions the types of channels that they should have access to the moment they open up Slack, right? And then the great part about that is it just gives them a jumping off point. When they interact with their rest of their coworkers and their peers, they tell them they should go join channels X, Y, and Z, and that obviously helps. But this at least just gives them a very focused set of content and channels, all the history, all the conversation, and all the communication around the things that are the most appropriate and associated to them doing their job and doing it fast and doing it well. And so it's an incredible boon for our team's productivity and their ability to just kind of focus on what really needs to happen, start using the rest of the peer network, for lack of a better term, to then learn about what they need to know next, but still being very, very clear about what they need and when they need it. The final thing here that I want to talk to is, now that we've been thoughtful about automating the process of how do we give people access to the appropriate applications and then the content within those applications, there's just this last thing it seems simple and it seems obvious for anybody who's used Slack, but it really is one of the best things about it, is that Slack effectively integrates with anything, right? And it's not just that Slack does it, is that it does it seamlessly with Okta. And so whether you use Salesforce, you use Workday, you use Oracle or whatever, there's an integration for it. Right. And if there's not, there's probably going to be one soon, because it's very rare that we find that there isn't an integration for what we want. And what it does is it says, it takes that group concept and it just makes sure that if I'm a sales rep and I have a list of accounts that I only should have access to, when I do the Salesforce integration /Salesforce and then type an account name, I get that account information if I have the appropriate security that's been established in the Salesforce.com instance for me to look at. Right. So it keeps all the work happening in Slack in one cohesive unit. You can share information with people. You can do it in real time. When you're having conversations with your boss or your peers, you can do those kind of quick commands that pull up the information when you need it to answer that question right then and there. And that's incredibly, incredibly powerful. And the end user, our employees, they don't even think about it. It's just a thing that they can do. Right. So all we have to do is make sure they know that it's available. And that's a really, really big part about what makes Slack plus Okta really effective. Anaplan has nothing to do with this part, but it really does help just kind of do that final mile of enhancing that onboarding experience to get to rep productivity as fast as humanly possible. So in a nutshell, that's what we accomplished over the last kind of 2.5, maybe 3 years with our onboarding process using Slack and Anaplan, and of course, Okta. Thank you.